It is March 9th, 2026, and this is the Court Gallery. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today's compilation is an absolute roller coaster of segments that I have prepared for you. First, we're going to Siren, Wisconsin, where we'll watch an emotional confrontation as a property owner faces the burglars who stripped his vacation cabin of irreplaceable and sentimental items. Then we're up for a jaw-dropping clerical disaster with Judge Ricky, where a guy has been pulled from his home in Mississippi and brought to sit in jail in Kansas for the last 15 days. And to finish it off, we're going to see a humorous case with a guy who thought, well, he'd just take his car off-road to play in the national park. And it all starts right now.
In the matter 25 CF 42, State of Wisconsin versus Stephanie Achterling. The state appears through District Attorney Kevin Schmidt in person. Ms. Achterling appears in person with counsel Shirlene Herron. We're set here today in this matter for the sentencing portion of the case. The court did order a pre-sentence investigation report. The court has received that report. I have reviewed that report. The court also received an independent assessment from Independent Assessment Services, an alternate pre-sentence investigation report. The court has also reviewed that report. Victims' rights compliance.
We are.
Any victims going to be making a statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll get to that momentarily. Mr. Schmidt, have you received and reviewed both of the pre-sentence investigation reports?
I received it, I reviewed it, I have no corrections.
All right, Ms. Perrin, did you receive the PSI?
Yes.
From the DOC and any corrections or modifications for the record?
No.
Did you review it thoroughly with your client, Ms. Achterling?
Yes.
And she did not notice any corrections or any modifications for the record?
No.
She is currently in custody for the sentencing with you. We have one victim impact statement. I'm going to request that the victim please come forward and sit on the black, by the black table. You can either state your name for the record, or you can state your initials, whatever you prefer.
My name is Mike McManus.
Can you spell McManus, please?
MC capital MANUS.
Thank you. You may begin.
First off, thank you for the opportunity to speak here. This is a case that's gone on quite a while. And I just feel like my property, my life, everything was violated. You came into my property, you took stuff that didn't belong to you and sold it for pennies on the dollar. You took sentimental things from me that I can't replace. You put a huge financial burden on me personally. You took a lot of things that were worth a lot of money. I had a outboard motor that I learned to operate a boat with. And to you, it was just an outboard motor. To me, it meant everything. My dad taught me how to use it, how to operate a boat safely. And you don't know this, but I spent the summer prior to that rebuilding that thing from the ground up. Brand new. And I was looking forward to using it the following summer. And I was notified that my stuff had been taken. I was a snowbird. I was in South Carolina at the time when you guys decided to take everything. And it hit me hard. And it really hit me hard when I got back up here for the summer. Damage to my camper, damage to my door, everything. I couldn't hire a moving company to do a better job than you guys did. You had to have been, you had to made more than one trip, guaranteed. It just violated everything. And now I built a new house on that property, and it has a security system that I pay $45 a month for now. I never thought I'd need that here. This is the third time since my parents bought that property in '76. We've been burglarized twice prior, and I've also had theft from my vehicle on my property. I don't understand how it just keeps happening, and it's got to stop. I honestly believe that they need to be removed from our society for a little bit longer than what was presented, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Schmidt, argument and sentencing recommendation, please.
Thank you. My argument to the court is going to be that the court should follow the Department of Corrections recommendation, which is 5 years probation on the burglaries, 1 year probation on the thefts, withheld sentences on the thefts, state and imposed sentences on the burglaries of 4 in, 2 out, everything concurrent to each other. So from the PSI, we see that this is a person with no criminal history. She says she's been using methamphetamine from age 15 to present, which indicates she's one of those rare individuals we see occasionally come through the court where methamphetamine has not in and of itself caused criminal convictions while they were using it up until much later in their life. She went and did some college and reportedly did well in the PSI. She then worked consistently from ages 21 to 31. She became unemployed at age 31 during COVID and never went back to work. She was a dental implant technician. For the past 5 years, even from the PSI, it's been a real question what she's been doing to subsist and how she survived. With her training experience she had, it's kind of hard to believe she couldn't have started up work again once COVID was over. Her job wasn't like a restaurant job where a lot of positions went away permanently. I actually have a lot of cousins who do similar work that work stayed through COVID. Despite her saying she's been using methamphetamine for 21 years and drinking so much alcohol, she blacks out. She questioned in the PSI whether treatment would benefit her. She says she might benefit instead from therapy. I suspect maybe what she's getting at there is she doesn't think she needs inpatient treatment, but would benefit from maybe something outpatient. That or she's talking about just therapy related to mental health. It's hard to say. At some point, this person started dating a man named Robert English. Robert English had a prior conviction involving receiving stolen property, where he was found with some burglarized property, and he said Kenneth Ochterling did a burglary and gave it to him. Kenneth said, no, I didn't. So Robert English got convicted of receiving stolen property. It was another case in roughly the same area. She says together, she and Robert English, I do appreciate in the pre-sentence investigation report, she talked about what they were doing, that they were just looking at nearby cabins, seeing which ones had the signs that this is snowbirds, this is people who aren't in their cabins all year long, and picked those to burglarize. She admitted that Robert was out doing that, admitted she went out and did the burglaries with him. She says while she was doing this, she claims she was high on methamphetamine and blackout drunk on vodka. She did admit to having multiple victims in this case. As a result, she spent 339 days in jail so far, starting on April 4th to present. This is her first run-in with the criminal justice system. Her DNA was found at 3 of the scenes. Property from 4 of the burglaries was found in that room she shared with Robert English at his mother's house. All of the burglaries were local. They're all within a close proximity to that location. And this is consistent with what she told the PSI writer with how they were picking targets and what they were doing. I think DOC is correct in that I think she is a low risk to reoffend if and only if the following 3 conditions are met. And this is why I think they said probation. One, and this is the most important one, no contact with Robert English. I don't think this happens, or at least she's not involved with this if she doesn't meet Robert English. Two, AODA conditions. She talks about how the methamphetamine use and the getting blackout drunk tied into this decision making. No doubt it's tied into her decisions to associate with people like Robert English. Third, and this also I would say this might be even more important than the drug addiction one, given what she described with using since she was 15, work. She needs to get back to work. I don't think we can say it's a coincidence that she went to age 31 working, and then 5 years after that, she stops working. Well, 3 to 4 years after she stops working is when these happen, because these happened in 2024. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think if she's working and she isn't associating with people like Robert English and she's not using, this doesn't happen. We get people like Stephanie Ochterling occasionally on these PSIs, and it's always disappointing when we do. These people where they're educated, they have good work history, and then suddenly at some point in their 30s, they suddenly stop working, they stop associating with the social connections they had prior, and they just kind of break bad, they start using drugs, and they commit crimes. These are the people that have high rehabilitative potential. These stand in stark contrast to the cases we have where, we have somebody who is 40 or 50 and they have 5 years work experience at most to their name, where we know even if they weren't convicted during the time, we know how they were subsisting and how they were surviving. Stephanie Ochterling's obviously not one of those people. She has potential for being rehabilitated. So the way that ties in with how the court has to look at sentencing, it first has to look at probation, unless a probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense. If Miss Ochterling pled out on day one and came here and said, give me probation, it would have depreciated the seriousness of the offense. What makes it not do that here is that she has 339 days credit. She's been in jail for a whole year, and that's been front loaded in this case. That is why probation does not unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense in this case, because it's not just 1 year probation, it's more than a year county jail if you count good time. What does get us to the state imposed prison sentence on this, though, is the gravity of the offense in this case. This is her first offense. This is her first conviction. Studies, when you look at recidivism, say the predictive factors for whether or not someone's likely to reoffend in the future, the two biggest things are your age and what your prior history is. And prior history is really in her favor. That's why Compass says low risk to reoffend. You don't need Compass to know that. In this case, however, you can look at it on the one hand and look at the time frame of where these happen and say this is one streak of behavior, it's one pattern of behavior, and look at it from that way and come to one sort of analysis. A way that I think you have to not depreciate the seriousness of it is more than that. It was multiple victims. And when you break down the behavior, I probably think about this more than, say, a judge might. When someone does a burglary, it's not just one discrete act. You can't just wave it away and say, I was on methamphetamine, I was blackout drunk, we went and did the burglary, that was bad, I'm sorry for that. Because it's more than that when you do a burglary. So doing a burglary necessarily requires a whole lot of complex decision-making and logic and actions over a long period of time, because you need to make the decision you're going to do it. You need to find the targets that are soft that you could hit, pick a time to do it. You go and do it. Like Mr. McManus said, the nature of a lot of the property here, not just at his, but a lot of these, with the volume and the weight of some of the items, it would have took multiple trips or multiple people. So then you've taken the property. So then that part's done. After that is the part of what do I do with it? Where do I put it? You have to necessarily think about those things. You have to think about which things do we like, do we keep, which things are able to sell, how do you sell this sort of item, how do you sell that sort of item. Selling and getting money for these things can involve a lot of different contexts over a long period of time. What I'm trying to get at is anytime you have a burglary, every single case, it also necessarily includes criminal thinking, because there has to be complex reasoning and logic in how you dispose of the property, how you pick it, all of the behaviors that go into the action. So that is something important too, as well as a condition of probation. I think every single burglary case needs one of those conditions for like the thinking for a change, moral recognition type treatment, something to deal with the cognition, because that problem exists in every single one of these. And it also shows why burglaries need to have like that state and imposed prison sentence here that DOC recommends. That 6-year, 4 in, 2 out sentence is important. I think with Stephanie Achterling, it's likely to be a pretty effective deterrent. This is a person who today is 36 years old. She just spent a year in jail. It's all the jail she's ever done in her life. And now the court's saying to her, if you do it again, or you do even something lesser that gets you revoked, you're looking at 4 years in prison. I think we know that with first-time offenders, people who are not frequent consumers of the criminal justice system, those kinds of deterrents are very effective. So I'd ask the court to follow that argument. I think it's the best way to make sure this doesn't happen again. I think with the year jail and with the state imposed prison sentence, the offense is not depreciated. I think the court has meted out the big sentence that was already necessary on the person who obviously masterminded this with Robert English when it did the prison sentence consecutive to his revoked receiving stolen property sentence. I think the 339 days she's already sat now and the state imposed prison sentence accomplish the same objectives here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Heron.
Thank you. We do have one person who wants to make a statement. That would be Pastor Goodwin.
Very briefly, you can come up here and provide a statement.
Thank you. I'll just read this. I'm Pastor Goodwin, Echdal Community Church in Grantsburg. And I wrote this letter to submit this, but the attorney asked me to read it. So this letter is regarding Stephanie Achterling, incarcerated at Burnett County Jail. And it's about my interaction with her. I have been meeting with her one-on-one weekly for the past 6 months. I've noticed a real sense of contrition and desire to make real changes in her life. I've had Bible study and prayer time with Stephanie each visit. She acknowledges that God's providence has her here because of her own actions and blames no one else. She has no church or religious background in her life, but has really responded to what the Lord has been teaching her through Bible study and religious services here in the county jail. And so I just give my opinion of her is the thought of her recommitting any of these crimes. Just she's come to be like a new person. She's very intelligent, and I would recommend that probation would be warranted. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, I have some certificates and another letter. Should I give them to the
You
clerk?
can just give them to me.
Okay.
Thank you. I've read the letter from Pastor Cecilia Pardon. All right, I have reviewed all of the certificates. There are many.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the defense is recommending the recommendations from the alternative pre-sentence report, which is 3 years probation, a withheld sentence and 3 years probation on counts 2 and 11, 18 months probation, a withheld sentence on counts 2 and 35, all to run concurrent. The convictions, particularly on the burglaries, are on serious offenses. The defense generally agrees with the arguments of the state. I'm not going to repeat generally the statements made by Mr. Schmidt. I wanted to highlight some things about Ms. Achterling from both PSIs. I noted a few things that she kind of did in both PSIs. She talked about her childhood as being basically a happy childhood. Sounds like there were some challenges, but she characterized that childhood as happy. She spoke about some rough times in that relationship with Mr. English that included some abuse from him, some substance abuse. But interestingly, she didn't blame her behavior on anybody. I think that speaks to her ability to correct her behavior, as Mr. Schmidt alluded to in his argument. So I would ask the court to consideration. She recognized the harm that she has done. She understands what, and has come to understand more and more throughout time that she has spent in custody, the harm that has been done to the victims. And one of the things that could also be done during a term of probation is some kind of community service, in addition to other things like therapy. It would seem that also based on the pre-sentence investigation and the alternative report, that there is some level, I'm not a therapist, but also it seems like there's a theme of kind of codependency in her life, first with her brother, then with Mr. English. And again, she is not blaming them on her, she's not blaming them for her behavior. But there does seem to be a pattern in her life, and she's choosing people to be around with. But that may also assist her in the future, for her to stand up more for herself, for her to have the self-esteem to continue with her education and to be more successful in her life. Because of her lack of prior history, because of her prior success in life, her lack of blame of others, her acknowledgement of the seriousness of what she's done, her potential for correcting her behavior. We do ask the court to withhold sentence and place her on probation. I understand the state's perspective on the imposed and stayed sentence. However, there are also reasons for the court to withhold sentence and have some measure of an ability to impose a sentence when the time comes if there is a revocation. I'm optimistic that Ms. Achterling would not be in that situation based on getting to know her over the last year. I can't imagine that would happen. I'm very optimistic for her and hope the court will adopt one of the recommendations here today. And I believe she has a statement she wants to make.
All right. Ms. Achterling, if you're going to read a statement, please make sure that you can read it slowly and enunciate your words so that both myself as well as my court reporter can hear and understand, okay?
Okay. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I know how it feels to lose something that cannot be replaced. And I know that knowing that I caused the same hurt to another person and their family and how it affected them and their family deeply breaks my heart. Nobody deserves to go through that kind of pain. I understand that saying I'm sorry doesn't make up for the peace and security the victims once had. My actions were unexcusable, and I deeply and truly apologize from the depths of my heart. Before coming in here, I was going down a destructive path, and being brought in here has saved my life and forever changed my life. While being in here, I've attended all the groups that were offered to me, which has given me the tools necessary for a better future. Because of the situation, it brought me to God and to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, who has given me a new positive and healthy outlook on how I want to live my life. With that being said, I want to thank you for saving my life. I plan on finding a church in my community if given the opportunity to return home. I want to continue on the right path with God on my side and following the guidelines and help given by probation. And I'll continue to maintain my sobriety through finding support groups in my community. I also want to get stable employment and continue to improve my life. I'm committed to following all the court requirements. Your Honor, I respectfully ask the court to consider my efforts to take responsibility in the changes I've made and will continue to make while determining my sentence. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Thank you.
Ms. Achterling, I have heard the arguments of both attorneys. I've heard a character reference for you. I've read a letter. I've seen all of the certificates. I've read the Department of Corrections pre-sentence investigation. I've read the alternate pre-sentence investigation. I've heard a statement from the victim. I have read within the PSI document other statements from victims of lives that you have impacted. There's a lot here. There's a lot for the court to sift through and to look at. When a court sentences an individual, I have to look at multiple factors and multiple things. First, I have to look at the nature and the gravity of the offense, or the offenses. Here, there's multiple. And that's the seriousness. How serious are these matters in these cases? Second, I have to look at your character, your prior criminal record, all of those things that are contained in both of these documents. And then I have to look at the need to protect the public. I have to look at other things as well. I have to look at the effect of the victims, any rehabilitative needs that you have. If there's any, undesirable behavior patterns, your culpability, your age, your education, your history. I also have to look at what's called deterrence. There's two types. One is specific deterrence, to specifically deter you from committing other crimes, or especially crimes like this, and general deterrence, to generally deter others from doing the same thing. All right. And when I'm looking at deterrence, specifically with you, a sentence has to be crafted to ensure that, again, this is serious enough that you understand that you cannot engage in things like this. You have to change your habits, the things you do. You have to change your associates, the people you hang out with, Robert English, perhaps even your brother. You have to change yourself, all right? That's the only way you can significantly improve your life and stay on the right path. You have to surround yourself with people who have the same alignment of any desired goals or any other positives, people that can greatly influence you in a positive way and not in the negative, how it's happened the last few years, all right? With general deterrence, I have to look at generally deterring others from, again, doing the same or similar crimes. We live in Burnett County. I live in Burnett County. You do not. A lot of the people in this room live in Burnett County or have a vacation residence. There are so many vacation homes in Burnett County. You're from Minnesota. You have no connection to Burnett County except for Robert English and his mother and her home here. That's your only connection. And you're shaking your head up and down because that's true.
Yes.
Okay. But Burnett County, it's a small county. In the winter time, in the colder months, other than having snowmobilers and those things and ice fishermen, when we have nice weather to do so, nice snow, we have a population of about 18,000, 19,000 people, okay? In the summer, when we have all of the people who come and have all of their vacation homes, because we have many, many vacation homes, our population skyrockets, okay? We can go up to 80,000 or more people in this small county during the warm months. That makes all of those vacation properties, all of those homes with snowbirds and people that go away for the winter, vulnerable. And it has. We've had multiple strings of burglaries. And as it's been stated in Mr. English's sentencing, he was part of a crew or himself that engaged in multiple burglaries over multiple times and years. And now you, since meeting Mr. English, joined forces and you burglarized multiple homes in Burnett County, homes, and by homes, I mean vacation properties, cabins, those kinds of things, multiple places, and some multiple times for one place. And that is victimizing an entire community. That is putting an entire community in fear. Because when you burglarize somebody's home or somebody's vacation property, their cabin, etc., you're not just taking away from them property. It's more than just personal property. It's more than the fishing gear. It's more than the ATVs, the UTVs. It's more than the motors. It's more than, you know, the tools and all of those things. What you are taking away from people is their peace of mind. You are taking away their security. You are taking away from some people their home away from their home, their place that they come to decompress, to de-stress, to enjoy life, and to get out and to enjoy what Burnett County has to offer. And the more that we have individuals like yourself and like Mr. English and like your brother coming in and destroying that, the more you are destroying Burnett County's ability to have tourism, to increase their ability to support each of the people that reside here in Burnett County and make this home. So your impact of burglarizing one property or two properties or three properties or one more than another, you are impacting more than just 3, 4, 5, 6 families. It's an entire community. Burglaries are serious in multiple ways, including the fact that I know that it sounds, from what I've read and from what I've heard, that each of the homes or vacation properties were either staked out or cased, so to speak, to see if and when people have been there so that they're an easier target to hit. But the fact is, that it's this crime, it can be defined as serious also because even though you staked them out, you cased the joints, you did the things and thought that people were not going to be there, when you hit that property, when you went to go take things that weren't yours from that property, somebody could have been there. Something more serious could have happened. We could have had somebody hurt or killed had you not known that someone was unexpectedly at their own property. And we could have been here for a far more serious crime in addition to these crimes. Now, I've reviewed and read all of the information and all of the facts and about you. Other than starting to use substances at a very early age, and it sounds like, I'm not sure if I gathered this correctly, but your brother may have been an influence. That's what I've read or gathered from these documents. But it seems like, other than that, you had a pretty good childhood. You have a mother who's been protecting you and being there for you for your whole life. And you're kind of shaking your head up and down. And you didn't have some of the traumas that I see of other people sitting in that chair. But for the fact that you perhaps had some issues and you decided to use substances and alcohol at a very early age, I don't see the reason as to coming down this path or finding Robert English. Because all in all, I've heard really good things said by the district attorney, that up until the age of 31 or so, you were doing well, you had good jobs, you did things, you were a good daughter, you had all of the positives. You lost your job, that happens, but usually people then go, okay, I'm going to gather everything up. I'm going to look at a different career. I'm going to do some other education classes, or I'm going to get their certificate, and I'm going to do this instead of that. But instead, you allowed negative associates in your life and people to kind of help change your path. They were your choices. Wasn't a mistake. You made the choices to associate with individuals that you probably at the time knew you shouldn't. And you continued down that path because with each and every casing of a property, with each and every staking out that property to see if it was a good target, with each and every break of a window or jimmying of a door, or with every time you cut off a padlock or whatever you did to get into these properties, each and every time it was a choice and you knew it was happening. And then each and every time you came back with your loot, your treasures from other people's properties, you sifted through them like they were just found or abandoned property, and you took what you wanted and you decided what to sell and how to sell it and who to help sell it, and you brought other people involved. You had other people involved in this, where other people were. But each and every step was a choice. You could have walked away. You could have said no. You could have told authorities. You could have told your mom. You could have told somebody else. You could have done anything at each of the specific dates and times and steps that could have prevented further loss from other people. But you didn't do that. You waited until you got caught. And there was a huge investigation. I'm going to tell you, just because we're a small county doesn't mean that we have officers that don't know how to do their jobs. They do, and they do very well. Because this wasn't an easy thing to pinpoint and to track and to find and to determine. So I need to look at protecting the public, and that means I need to protect the public from you and from behavior like this. I need to also protect the victims that are involved, because they have specifically been targeted and are suffering and impacted by your decisions. So I have to look at that. But the state is correct in the fact that the law requires that I look at probation first. Probation is the first thing I have to look at. Unless confinement, that means prison here, unless prison is necessary to protect the public from further criminal activity from you, unless you need correctional treatment, that means you can only get the treatment confined in prison because you're not going to be able to do it on your own. You won't seek the services. You won't listen to an agent. You won't do those things. Or if probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offenses, okay? When I'm looking at this case, it's very serious. They are serious. And it's aggravated because we have multiple burglaries, multiple victims here. But in looking at the things that I have to consider, and the fact that you have no criminal history, you were law abiding, except for using substances and doing those things, and or you may have engaged in other things, you just didn't get caught, but you were law abiding until you were 31 or so. You have the ability to become law abiding again. You obviously have brains, or you wouldn't have had a good job like you did, so you can do something else. You just have to steer yourself that way, and you have to be dedicated enough to want you. You have to want you and want a better life for you. You choose you next time. Don't choose someone who's giving you flattery here or there or trying to make you feel good. That's all talk. Only you can make yourself feel good. So if that means going to therapy, if that means getting a better job by doing education, if that means getting certificates, that's what you have to do, because only you can make you feel good, and only you can allow yourself to love yourself. based on the totality of the circumstances, I'm going to craft my sentence this way. And there's going to be the necessary protections for the public in general, as well as for the victims specifically. With regards to, I'm going to go with the thefts first. I believe that is count 26 and 35. With the misdemeanor thefts, what I'm going to do is I'm sentencing you to 9 months of jail. As a sentence. And I am assessing $443 in fines and fees. With regards to the burglary counts, I am sentencing you to three and a half years of initial incarceration with 3 years of extended supervision. But I'm staying that and placing you on probation for 5 years. This is a blessing for you. You could have been sent to prison today. With the burglaries, what I'm going to do is I am going to order that there be 1 year of conditional jail with credit for the time she has already been serving. So that would mean, I believe if I've calculated it correctly, because I think the jail goes by 360 for a year. You do go by 365 for a year?
12 months is 360 and a year is 365.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So then I had 21 days, but that is not correct because I was going by what I thought was correct. So you would have about another month to serve because this is serious and you need to understand the severity. And with regards to the theft and the conditional jail, they are concurrent, the same credit. We have 339 days of jail credit. Conditions on probation and extended supervision. No contact with Robert English. No contact with Kenneth Achterling unless your department or your DOC agent approves. An AODA assessment and follow through. No use or possession of any illegal drugs, substances, or paraphernalia. No alcohol. No bars, taverns, liquor stores, casinos, or establishments that have the primary purpose for the sale or the service of alcohol. If you are employed at a place that serves alcohol, you must get your Department of Corrections agent's approval for that employment. You must have gainful employment or additional education. Regular testing. And so you know that the no use or possession of illegal substances, that does include THC. Even though you're living in Minnesota, you may not use THC, even for medicinal purposes. No contact with Burnett County except for probationary purposes or court-related purposes. Any court-related purposes. Or any other purposes that you've asked the court for a written permission to do so, and you must have court approval. The court believes here that based upon the number of vacation homes and the fact that there is proven staking out or scoping the homes where people were snowbirds or they were not using that property all the time, that the community is at risk at whole for further burglaries. You may not have contact with Robert English's mother or obviously her home. No contact with any of the victims, their residents, or any vacation properties that they have. "15 hours of community service per year for the first 3 years of probation." Any program that your agent deems necessary. No contact with any convicted felons unless in a treatment facility or your agent's approval. You must reside with your mother until your agent approves otherwise. With the felonies, $518 in fines and fees. You are paying probation because there is restitution. Is the restitution stipulated? What is that amount?
Bringing up the supplement submitted to the court real quick.
I have $24,437.84 in my supplement that was filed on May 2nd, 2025. There's a later one, early.
There's an October 1st one. It's document 41 and 25 CF42. I picked the right one. And that is
$2,344.84. The court is ordering stipulation, or is ordering restitution per the stipulation, and that is joint and severally liable with co-defendants. They're going to, again, pay probation. The court is going to order $500 per month in payments. And the payments will begin, I'll give you a grace period because you have another month of conditional jail and you're going to need to get out and try and look for employment. They will begin August 1st. That is a condition of your probation. If you fail to make your payments, you fail to abide by your conditions of probation, then you could be revoked and you could be sent to prison. It's very important. If you don't have the ability to pay $500 per month, the court is going to have a restitution hearing restitution hearing. You'll come to restitution court and you will advise the court as to why you are unable to pay that amount per month. And there could be consequences, which could be additional conditional jail and or revocation. If you are revoked off of probation, you would be eligible for substance abuse programming, earned release programs, and the challenge incarceration program. You have 20 days to appeal. Should you fail to appeal within 20 days, you do lose that right. Failing to pay your fines and fees, not only will the court enter a civil judgment against you, but you could, the court will issue a warrant. You could sit up to 6 months in jail. Because you are still on probation, that would be extraditable from Minnesota to Wisconsin. I need your DNA. The jail will make sure that they get your DNA. In a case like this, I'm not certain if you'd be able to have it expunged from the system through a written letter to the Department of Justice. I don't think this is a felony that you could do that, but you certainly can try. So you would need to do a written letter to the Wisconsin Department of Justice, not to this court. 339 days of jail credit. May no longer use or possess a firearm for life. No voting in any election until your civil rights are restored. Mr. Schmidt, what am I missing?
The only request I'd make is for the no contact with Robert English's mother. If we put that by name, Diana Bellinger, just because I think she's going to be going to a jurisdiction other than here where they might not know who that is.
Thank you. That is very important to have. Diana Bellinger, mother of Robert English. And that means any residence that she has. So if she moves to Minnesota, you still can't see her in Minnesota. Anything further?
No.
Ms. Perrin.
The only thing I would note for the record is she may not know the names of the victims. She may not know their addresses and other locations. I'm just noting that for the
Will go
record.
in her records so she would be able to have those,
Okay,
I believe, because Department of Corrections will be able to provide that to her and let her know who she cannot have contact with. I don't think they'll they won't give her their addresses specifically, but perhaps they might say Edina.
Okay.
Anything further?
no.
All right. Then you have additional conditional jail to sit. Once you are done with that, you're going to need to make sure that you have your probation set up here, and then they'll transfer it to Minnesota. Again, you are required in order to live with your mother until Department of Corrections otherwise determines appropriate, okay? All right,
Thank you.
then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will go on the record in the matter 25 CF 146, sorry, 25 CF 43, State of Wisconsin versus Kenneth Achterling. Appearances are, we do have the state appearing through District Attorney Kevin Schmidt in person. We have Michelle Erdman, Defense Counsel, in person. Mr. Achterling appears in person in custody. We're set today in this matter for the sentencing portion of this case. Mr. Achterling did plead guilty to one count of receiving stolen property, a Class G felony. The court ordered a pre-sentence investigation report. The court has received and reviewed that report. I don't believe I have reviewed and received anything else other than that, except I did get a letter from Jim Hansen on behalf of Mr. Achterling on December 9th, 2025. Mr. Schmidt, we're in victims' rights compliance.
Yes.
Did you receive and review the pre-sentence investigation report?
I did. I reviewed it and I have no corrections.
Okay, Mr. Erdman, did you receive and review the pre-sentence investigation report?
I did. I spoke to Mr. Achterling about it in the jail today, and he does not have any changes or corrections.
All right, Mr. Achterling, did you have enough time to be able to go over the report and speak to your attorney about that?
Yes, sure.
So you thoroughly understand what's in that report?
Yes, sure.
And Ms. Erdman went over all of that with you?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, and there was no corrections or modifications for the record?
Not that I know of.
Okay, all right. Then Mr. Schmidt argument, well, first we have a victim impact statement. If you would like to please come forward, come to that black table. You can provide your name or your initials if you wish to do so, and then provide a statement to the court.
My name is Mike McManus, McManus. I guess this is my third time doing this. I'm glad it's going to be done and over with, and I can move on with my life. You guys took a lot from me. Multiple trips. Like I said previous, I couldn't have hired a moving company to do a better job. A lot of the things you took had sentimental value to me. They weren't just financial. And I was woefully underinsured for what you took. You placed a huge financial burden on me. It's been 2 years now, I think. I've since built a house on that property. I now have a security system because of you guys. And I never thought I'd need something like that around here, to be honest with you. But I guess I should have known better, because this is the third time this has happened to me and my family. My parents bought that property in 1976. We had a cabin there. It was destroyed in a storm. We cleared the property. I settled up with my brother and sister. I ended up buying it from them. I put a fifth wheel camper on it, and I was spending my winters down in South Carolina. In fact, I'm heading there as soon as we're done here. And, you know, locks don't prevent things, apparently. I had the trailer locked. I had it chained to a tree. There were no keys in my four-wheeler. I read some text messages back and forth between Mr. Achterling and somebody else. I don't remember who it was, but about him discussing my bow, and then it boils my blood, to be honest with you. That thing was custom. I owned an archery shop in the Twin Cities, and that thing was custom made for me. It's left-handed, if you didn't notice. Custom color. Nobody else has one like that. I don't know what you did with it, but I sure miss it. I've replaced it, but it's not the same. Insurance doesn't cover things like the outboard motor that I learned how to operate a boat with. And you don't know this, but whoever got that, it's got a great motor, because I rebuilt it the summer before. It just needed a paint job and new decals. I have the decals if anybody wants them. It's just sad that people like you exist in this world, and I guess I'll leave it at that. I'm flabbergasted that you would spend so much time and energy doing something wrong, when if all you did was turn your life around a little bit and do something right, you'd probably be a good citizen. So I'm requesting that you know, he'd be given more time than what the DOC came up with in their pre-sentence investigation. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt, argument and sentencing recommendation, please.
Thank you. Judge, this one's a joint recommendation to the court of 3 years probation with 1 year of conditional jail. That would be within the low end of what DOC's recommendation is, since they recommended 1 to 2 in, 3 to 4 out. It's just structured differently because it's, you know, the 1 year conditional jail with 3 years supervision versus a bifurcated sentence that's exactly the same thing. Especially in a case like this where Mr. Achterling was arrested at the same time as Stephanie Achterling, so he has the same amount of credit. I came up with 339 days. So if the court did a bifurcated sentence, he'd either not go to Dodge because so little time is remaining, or he'd go there and not even get sent anywhere because of processing. The reason for this recommendation is that while Kenneth Achterling definitely has the worst criminal history of the 3 people involved in these offenses, he also is least tied to the evidence. His main ties were to 2 of the burglaries. Both of them were after the fact ties to it. One of them is, selling Mr. McManus's stuff that he talked about on there. The other, his DNA was on an ATV that was taken from a different victim and that was found at a different place. What sets him apart from English and Achterling is his DNA wasn't at any of the crime scenes. So the reason why we originally charged him with all 5 is it was on the conspiracy theory, which the court ultimately rejected, which brought us more to the accessory after the fact, or just receiving stolen property is what we did here on this with these 2 that we could connect him to. That's why in this one, it's the plea to the receiving stolen property and why the recommendation is lower given what his criminal history is, because we're looking at what the evidence actually showed we can connect him to, which is connection to selling the property afterwards. Or in the case of the ATV in Minnesota, the property after it was taken that also happened to have Robert English and Stephanie Achterling's DNA in it. So, and we know they were the ones going around casing the same places, taking it. And it's not gone without notice that Stephanie and Robert English, neither of them have mentioned Kenneth in this. What they describe with casing the areas nearby and picking the properties unoccupied. This kind of involvement with the receiving stolen property with the burglars, I think with somebody who had lesser criminal history, maybe would be looking at just probation. The 1-year conditional jail is what exists because of the criminal history. Kenneth has a history where he should know the consequences of his action. We know he had contact with law enforcement on Robert English's receiving stolen property case, where Robert English claimed Kenneth burglarized it. Police could never substantiate that, so they only charged Robert and convicted Robert of it. So Kenneth knew that association with Robert would have risk and still did it anyways. And this is what the result was. That 1-year conditional jail is necessary to not depreciate the seriousness of the offense. It's the minimum amount necessary to accomplish the purposes of the sentence. It's how we deter him from doing this in the future. The probation is how we rehabilitate, or I think what's the strongest use of probation here, making sure there's no contact with Robert English in any way, shape, and form. Robert English is the one who has the strong connection to the area. He's the one who had the connection to all of the burglary places, because that's where he was residing with his mother's house, which was the center point of where all these happened within that one to, I think the furthest one away was like 1.5 miles away. So preventing Kenneth Achterling from having contact with Robert English is the best way to protect Burnett County in particular. I think the court should mirror what it did with Stephanie Achterling's condition of probation, where it said no contact with Stephanie Achterling unless I think the court said probation approved, because they are relatives. They may have a legitimate reason to associate, or they might have a necessary reason to associate because of that in the future. But in general, I think the goal needs to be preventing these 3 people from associating with each other. It's a public safety issue when they do. And that's what the purpose of the sentence is designed to do, and what I'm asking the court to do today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Birdman?
Judge, we share in the recommendation that was joint to the court. I think I've been in this courtroom enough times to recall a lot of people come from Minnesota to commit crimes here, and it happens pretty regularly. I think some of the observations the court's made in the past is that the probation system, or the system over there, is not necessarily as robust as the system here, right? And I had that pretty candid conversation with Mr. Achterling today. I said, I look and you've got a number of charges here, and if anybody had done for you then what this court's done now, things may be different. And I think that that's the biggest thing that we're asking the court to consider. This is the longest he's been incarcerated. Every time I talk to him, he is nervous, he's upset, this is something that has been a very big awakening for him. And the fact that there's been consequence, I think he has alluded to it before, Your Honor, in the last, at the plea hearing, but I think it's also in the report. And he said, this is good for me. This was a forced sobriety that I never would have had. And I'm choosing to look at it that way. I think there was a letter from a spiritual counselor in the file. He's got his acceptance to teen challenge, and that's still continues to be his plan, is to enroll into that program. And his motivation isn't just to get out of here and get out of trouble. I think you may recall from reading the PSI, he's got a daughter who I believe was 3 or 4 when he last saw her. And so sobriety is going to give him the tools to now connect with a child as an adult that he hasn't had that opportunity. So he's going to use these things. And one of the things that he did while he was incarcerated, and he's got a huge number of certificates for, are parenting classes for sure. I don't know if he did other, it looks like a lot of parenting classes though were the focus of where he was putting his time. Just recognizing that this is now an opportunity not only to be sober, but to make some connections. And he's someone who came from a pretty strong family. It wasn't a broken home, if you will. So he does appreciate the family, the importance of family and family connections. Regarding, the sentencing factors, the things that Your Honor needs to consider, I don't think that this year has been easy for him. It's not going to unduly depreciate anything by saying 1 year in jail, because it's been a very hard year. And he's not had that kind of punishment in the past, where we've seen him kind of connected. And I said, I'm a little concerned. I don't want the judge to think that you're not here taking your responsibility or ownership for your part in these things. But we were able to show the district attorney with specificity, here's what was alleged, here's where the GPS was, here's what, we kind of went through things and excluded him from a lot of the behavior. And I think, I wasn't here for the sentencings, but the fact that his name wasn't part of the casing and things doesn't surprise me. And that was why we structured it the way we did. Candidly, this was a trial case in a lot of ways. It would have been something where I think we potentially could have been, somewhat successful, but Robert did have some connection, or excuse me, Kenneth had some connection to this, and he doesn't dispute that. The DNA, I think, on the ATV, he was riding in the back seat. The cigarette was in the back seat. The can Robert English was drinking from was in the front seat. This was after the fact, well after the fact. So he while loosely tied to it, it was still a connection. And that was what brought us to the value that made this such a significant level of punishment or penalty associated. And then in terms of the other belongings, it was more, they were stored at a location that was off-site. And if Mr. Ackerling was able to find a successful buyer, he knew he could get a cut of the action, if you will, and support his drug habit. So addressing the underlying drug habit is certainly going to be the biggest thing that's going to change for the protection of the community, getting him sober, keeping him sober. And he's got a plan to do that in place. For those reasons, Your Honor, we just ask that you consider following the recommendation.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ackerling, do you care to make any statement here today? If you do, this is your opportunity. If you don't feel like you have to.
Do you want to tell her about any of the stuff you did in the jail?
I've been going to AA every opportunity, same with parenting class, every opportunity that you guys offer, I've taken. I was accepted to Teen Challenge. They have a bed available. They said they sent this to you months ago, but I don't know if you ever got it. I just want to say I'm sorry for all this, and I want to do better.
All right, would you like me to look at those or not? I don't need to, it's up to you.
I think he brought them for that reason. I know a lot of counties have programming and the judges are kind of familiar, but if you'd like to see me working on it, that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. I have reviewed the admission to teen challenge along with the multiple parenting certificates that you have taken. Is there anything else that you would like me to be aware of or to know?
Just that I want to be there for my daughter again. And it's been tough, but I don't think I would have got sober had it not been for this. So, I mean, I'm grateful for that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Ackerling. I have received and reviewed the pre-sentence investigation report along with the other documents I have received today. I've heard arguments from both of the attorneys as well as an impact statement from one of the victims. You do have a criminal history. It's not voluminous, but it's not meager or small either. And it looks to be more along the same lines of the theft, the credit card fraudulent use, financial transaction card fraud, financial transaction card fraud again, couple driving after revocation maybe, and possession of 10 grams or more of a narcotic drug, forgery with intent to defraud, possession of a small amount of marijuana, and counterfeiting. The counterfeiting and the check forgery and the sale of the small amount of marijuana, those are very old, along with the driving after revocation. The other ones are newer within the last 5 years. It's not the most serious criminal record I've ever seen, but it's not something that is light either. This is the longest time you've sat incarcerated. And it's significant. It's 339 days. When I sentence an individual, we do things a little bit differently in Wisconsin than they do in Minnesota. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably a little bit more strict here, and there's more punishment here than there is in Minnesota. And that's because sometimes punishment is necessary to change somebody's habits or path or ways. Because if you keep getting on probation and there's nothing that's going to deter you from committing more crimes, even when you're on probation, I'm not saying that you were, but then what's going to stop and modify somebody's behavior? Nothing. That's why sometimes, maybe a lot of times, punishment is necessary. You've had a lot of punishment, even though it wasn't punishment, in sitting 339 days. Because these are serious crimes. You were originally charged with multiple serious crimes. However, as your attorney explained, through the process of looking through the discovery, the evidence, and working with the state and pinpointing the things down, you were involved in and with the crimes, but not to that degree. You're not doing those things. You weren't casing the joints. You weren't doing the burglaries. What your job was a part of this plan and the scheme was to get the property, receive that stolen property, and sell it or try and sell it and go like that. And as your attorney stated, it was for the most part to support your habit. Support your habit to live, because I don't know, what did you do? Did you have a job?
I mean, I've had a lot of jobs over the years.
Over this time span?
I mean, I did gutters.
Why didn't you do more gutters?
Because the person I was working for was super lazy.
Then why didn't you look for another gutter job?
Because he was the only one I knew who did it.
And why didn't you look for a job at the Quick Trip?
I mean, I was doing DoorDash and Instacart and stuff like that. So, I mean,
Why didn't, it doesn't sound like when you were doing those things, that those were jobs that fulfilled you or that occupied your time?
No, they didn't.
So why didn't you look for something that would do that?
Well, at the time I was a felon. And then I finally got that off my record. I was going to go back to doing cable. And then this happened.
Now you're a felon again.
Yeah.
So unfortunate that you were given a blessing that we don't have here in Wisconsin. You were given a blessing in Minnesota to have that felony work its way off of your record. And then unfortunately, you decided to engage in this conduct and this behavior that you knew was a crime, you knew it was against the law, you knew you were doing bad things. And now, unfortunately, you are a felon again. And this one's going to stay. This one, you don't have 5 years or so to have it work itself off of your criminal history. This one's a done deal. So now you're going to have to figure out how to actually change your life, how to actually change your habits, the things that you're doing, the use of the substances. You have to actually change your associates, the people that you're hanging out with and spending your time with, because so far it's been not that great.
Yeah.
And you have to work hard at changing yourself. That's the only way you're going to improve your life. And then you have to surround yourself with people who support a positive change and who align with the goals that you are setting, that you want with your life. You have to spend time with the people who can greatly influence a positive behavior and mindset. Not people like Robert English, who are concocting criminal schemes and plans, and you're going along with it, but you made that choice to go along with it. You have to align yourself with people who will put you on a better path. Teen Challenge is, I really respect that program. I respect it highly. And that is when the individuals go to this program and they give themselves to it. You have to give your all. You have to turn your whole life over, because that's what you're doing. You're changing your entire life.
That's what I plan on.
You have 339 days of sobriety, forced sobriety, easy sobriety. You may have said, it's not easy being upstairs and, or not upstairs anymore, being over in the new jail and having 339 days. That was not easy sobriety. It's a whole heck of a lot easier than when you are released and you are in the public and you are amongst other people, because then it becomes a whole lot harder, because then you have access.
Which is why I wanted Teen Challenge so bad.
And that's again going to be an additional forced sobriety. You're still going to have to work at it. But when you are in public, that's when the truth comes out. That's when you get to prove yourself and prove that you've taken control of your life. Because it's going to be easy. You know it's easy to find access to substances and to negative criminal behavior and a criminal mindset and thinking. It's easy. But it's hard to take control of your life. But you can do it. Now, when I look at sentencing, I have to look at the nature and the gravity of the offense. How serious is this matter? Then I have to look at you, your character, your past criminal record, your needs for rehabilitation, those types of things. Then thirdly, I have to look at the need to protect the public. That means the public at whole, as well as the specific victims who have been victimized. I also have to look at other factors such as the effect of the victims, and we've heard one impact, and I've heard others stated in the report. I have to look at If there are any undesirable behavior patterns that you're showing, I have to look at your culpability, I have to look at your age, your education, your history, and I have to look at deterrence, specific deterrence to deter you from continuing to commit crimes, especially ones like these, and general deterrence. A sentence that will deter others from wanting to do the same thing or wanting to come to Burnett County because they think it's an easy score. Okay. Now, in sentencing somebody, I have to also look at probation first. Even though this is going to be transferred to Minnesota under their probationary standards, it's going to be a Wisconsin probationary case, but I would need to look at probation first unless confinement is necessary to protect the public from further criminal activity. If it looks and appears from this document right here and from knowing all of the things I know that you're not going to make the changes you need, especially right away, and you're just going to go right back and commit crimes. Or if you need correctional treatment, meaning the only treatment that you're going to receive or you're willing to receive is forced treatment while in prison or in another institution, or if probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense. This is serious. Granted, you weren't the one doing the major parts of the crimes. You knew that they were happening. You were engaged in that kind of plot or scheme. However, your end was at the back end. You were the one receiving that property. You were the one who had to deal with the property, decide what to keep, what to sell. You know, if there's anything to give away, you wanted to give it to somebody else, or other exchanges. That was your role. Still makes it serious because of all of the impacts that you have had, and you knew what was transpiring in this county. We have multiple burglaries here, some perhaps hit more than once by Mr. English. And so Burnett County as a whole was impacted significantly. Again, even if you weren't the one doing those burglaries, you weren't the one going into the property, you weren't the one breaking the locks or the windows or the things and taking that property, the personal property from the cabins and the homes and the things, you were involved in it on that back end. I stated previously in the other sentence with a co-defendant that with Burnett County is a vacation destination. It's a place where people come to essentially get away from the world. It's their home away from home, their place away from all of the stress and the frustration and the anxiety of the world, to come here and to just be able to breathe and decompress and to engage in all of the fun activities and recreational things that we have here in Burnett County. You may not be aware of this, but in Burnett County, in the winter months, in the down months, we only have a population of about 18 to 19,000. In the summer months and all of the festivities and all of the great weather and all of those things, our population increases to about 80,000 or more. See, your eyes lit up, didn't they? Because that's a huge increase in population. That's telling you how many vacation homes, cabins, properties, trailers, campers, all of those things that we have here in Burnett County. And so that means that they're targets. They get scoped, they get cased, and they're there where people know that they're either snowbirds or the people aren't here all the time, and they're easier targets than when they're lived in year round. And so the court has to look at that and to ensure that Burnett County is going to be safe and that you're not going to engage in further conduct with Mr. English and his plans and all of those things, because it wasn't his first time doing this in Burnett County as well, or perhaps other places. when I look at you, Mr. Achterling, I do hear a person who has perhaps finally realized that enough's enough. You're too old to continue with this crap, doing the same things and engaging in the same behaviors. Because if I look at your history, you were very young. Was it 8th grade? It was very young. And you started using substances and alcohol and going down the wrong path. And as Ms. Erdman stated, you didn't have a terrible childhood. And you're shaking your head no.
And
You had a good childhood. You had a mother who was there for you, who a family who loved you, a sister who probably worshiped you, and that's why she fell down the wrong path. That's why she started using the substances at an early age, because she looked up to her brother.
yeah, after my grandma died.
After your grandma died, that was a big trauma to you. Well, then you need to perhaps work through those traumas in therapy and in other ways so that you can fix that or deal with that so that you're not going to continue to be in that chair. Because until you do, until you heal those past traumas and work through those past traumas, you're not going to get to a stable place. And you're going to continue to self-medicate with alcohol and substances. Only you can take control of your life. Only you can do that. Only you can want it for you. Now, with the amount of cases here and meaning the burglaries and the things taken and the level, the amount of money of the stolen property, it makes it more serious. But I do see somebody who is willing to change, who wants to change, who perhaps was not yet given a real opportunity to change. And this is your one and only shot. With regards to this matter and the receiving stolen property greater than $10,000, a Class G felony, the court is going to assess $518 in fines and fees. Stipulated restitution, Ms. Erdman.
Yes, Judge.
Restitution ordered in the amount of $32,344.84, joint and severally liable with other co-defendants. I'm ordering with regards to a sentence in this case. I am going to do 3 years of initial confinement, 3 years of extended supervision. I'm staying that, I'm imposing it, but I'm staying that, and I'm putting you on probation for a period of 4 years with these conditions. You must go to and successfully complete Teen Challenge. That is a year or more program. You must successfully complete. If you fail to complete that program, you could be revoked. No contact with Robert English. Well, first, in 1 year of conditional jail with credit for the 339 days. No contact with Robert English. No contact with Diana Bellinger, his mother, or her residence. If she moves, you can't have contact with her anywhere. No contact with Stephanie Achterling unless approved by your agent. Absolute sobriety. No use or possession of illegal drugs, substances, or paraphernalia. No alcohol. No bars, taverns, liquor stores, casinos, or establishments that have the primary purpose for the sale or the service of alcohol. Regular testing. Gainful employment or continued education. No contact with Burnett County except for probationary or court-related purposes or other approval as requested by the court. So if you have something else you wish to do in Burnett County, you must first write the court and get my permission and approval. No contact with any of the victims, their residences, their vacation properties, their families, etc. $15 hours of community service per year for the first 3 years while on probation. I'm stressing the fact that you must successfully complete that teen challenge program. You cannot terminate yourself. You cannot do something to have them terminate you. You will be subject to revocation. The court is going to order while you're in teen challenge that your payments will be $100 per month towards restitution and court costs and fees, etc., until you are released from teen challenge, and then it will increase to $500 per month. If you fail to pay your restitution payments, you will have restitution court, and that will also include while you are in teen challenge. So if you cannot figure out how to pay your $100 a month restitution payment, you're going to have to figure it out. You will have restitution court. With restitution court, you could be subject to other sanctions, which could include additional jail or revocation. You will be able to have a job in teen challenge, but not for a while. I can't remember when it is. And so if once you are in teen challenge and you don't feel you'll be able to make your first month or second month payment, you must write the court. You must let me know. The court will entertain early release from your conditional jail to be transferred to teen challenge. That is a place where you cannot leave, or if you do, you will be sent back to jail. So then that can be counted with your conditional jail. So if you can get a bed and you can get there in 10 days, then you need to let the court know so that I can be aware, and that perhaps can be achieved.
They do have a bed available.
Well, I don't know. You have to arrange transportation. You have to get a date set. They're not just going to say you can come tomorrow. We have to figure that out. No contact with any convicted felons unless your agent approves. You must do all programming that your agent requires. The court is going to order that you engage in a criminal thinking program, such as breaking barriers or thinking for a change, or some other program that Minnesota may use. You have 20 days to appeal. Should you fail to appeal within 20 days, you do lose that right. No use or possession of a firearm for life. No voting in any election until your civil rights are restored. I'm ordering your DNA. You may be able to have it expunged through a written letter to the Department of Justice, the Wisconsin Department of Justice, not to this court. I don't believe that this is one that you can have it expunged, but perhaps you can seek that. Mr. Schmidt, what am I missing?
Nothing for me.
Ms. Erdman?
Did you account for the jail credit already?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Acterling, it is now in your hands and your future is dependent upon what you do and the choices that you make. And it's going to start with Teen Challenge and completing that program. It's a very intense program, but if you can do it, I know plenty of people who have done it, who have turned their lives around. I know others who have then made the choice to go back to their negative ways. In your hands, your choice. I really hope that you're going to be able to do that. I don't believe that there's anything further at this time. Then we are adjourned.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and start. This is the Butler County, Kansas first appearance docket of March 9, 2026. I'm David A. Rickey, District Judge. First case that I'll take up involves a detention facility prisoner. I'm looking for William Johnson. William Johnson? Okay, I'll need you to answer out loud where I can hear you.
Well, my name is James Johnson, James Howard Johnson, but man, I'm who you're looking for, Judge.
All right, I've got you listed here on paperwork as William Johnson. This is State of Kansas versus William Johnson, case number 2021 CR 240. Mr. Johnson appears from the Butler County Jail Zoom location. Joseph Baca appears for the State of Kansas. Mr. Johnson, I have before me a warrant to show cause alleging probation violation, failing to notify your ISO prior to changing your residence, failing to provide employment verification. As alleged by Ms. Ashenfelter from Community Corrections. Further hearing will need to be set regarding those allegations with your assigned judge, the Honorable Chad Crum. What's up, Mr. Johnson?
Your Honor, I just want to explain to you what happened in this situation.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get into the merits of the allegations today.
No, it's not about the merits. It's about the fact that.
Well, I'm not going to deal with the allegations today, only advising you of what they are and setting it for another hearing, okay?
Okay, but Your Honor,
so I will set it before Judge Crum. And his next docket for that purpose is April 17, 2026, 2:30 p.m. Mr. Johnson must be fully participating in that hearing at that time. If you make bond, Mr. Johnson, you must appear at the Butler County Judicial Center in El Dorado, Kansas, and no other location on that date.
No.
Can you afford to hire a lawyer to represent you on this, Mr. Johnson?
No, sir, Your Honor. I mean, this matter has been disposed of. I mean, in front of Judge Crum in November of last year, he disposed of it. I mean, I was in Mississippi.
I'm looking, Mr. Johnson. Well, Mr. Johnson may have a point. Mr. Baca, just from the docket notes that I have before me, Mr. Johnson's assertion has some merit. Why is he here?
Judge, that's what I'm going through as well. I'm looking, it does look like we've had a prior warrant to show cause. It does look like that did appear in November 10th, 2025. And according to the notes, probation was violated and ordered revoked.
And the court determined he had flattened his time in the case.
Right, right. And Judge, I am not seeing a further updated note by an attorney, nor in our documents am I seeing anything past that. So that is actually a really good question as to why that's on. I even have the prior journal entry I'm looking at from January 29th of 2026 that does show that he was ordered revoked and remanded at that time.
Let me look and see what his original sentence was. 12 months, and he has 365 days of jail time credit. So he has flattened his time on this case. What probably happened is there's an old warrant that never got cleared out of the system. And he was apparently picked up on it. I'm going to order Mr. Johnson released at this time. I don't think the county attorney's office can provide a justification as to why he needs to continue to be held. Mr. Johnson, these things occasionally happen. I think your assertions are correct. I don't think there is an active case for you to be held any longer. Now, if you have other holds on you, Mr. Johnson, I'm not clearing you from those. Just in this case, 21 CR 240, and that's it.
Yeah, and I understand that, Your Honor. I mean, that's what I was trying to tell you, that, you know, when I went to court in November, the judge cleared me of all of this, and he told me that the detainer would be lifted. So I was held in the jail for an additional 17 days for Butler County. And then I was extradited 800 miles from Mississippi up here on a situation that was completely disposed of in November of last year. This is, I mean, illegal confinement. You know, I'm not supposed to be here.
Okay. So are you ready to go home to Mississippi?
Yes, I'm ready to go. I mean,
I don't see any reason why you
here.
can't. I don't see any reason why you can't, Mr. Johnson. So on this case, the court's going to order the hold released.
Yep.
Mr. Johnson, I think.
Home? I'm going to get 800 miles back home now.
I can't answer that question, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
But I can order you released.
Thank you.
And I regret that if there was any foul up here that resulted in you being detained when you shouldn't have been, I can only apologize on behalf of the system, Mr. Johnson. And wish you luck in the future, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. If there's nothing further on Mr. Johnson at this time, we'll move on to another case. Just wait for him to get you processed out, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The court's next going to address a case for someone who's appearing on their own Zoom. That's State of Kansas versus Ernesto Jose Lizardi Rodriguez. Case number 2024 FG3.
Your Honor, Mr.
If I could have the defendant in the case acknowledge that he can hear.
I can hear, but I'm not here by myself.
Yes, he's present with counsel, Your Honor, Jesse Gutierrez.
All right. Thank you for that announcement, counsel. And I do see that you identified the case number and I just overlooked it. All right. Does appear that there's an amended information in this case which alleges in count 1 a Kansas wildlife and parks violation charged as a Class C non-person misdemeanor.
Your Honor, and we would waive formal arraignment. I've actually been in contact with Jared Regier regarding a joint sentencing recommendation. We reached an agreement. I do see he's not here today, but he's prepared. My client's prepared to plead no contest is charged and just proceed to sentencing if you're willing to hear it.
Well, counsel, given the general nature of the charging document in this case, I don't know what he's been charged with. Does somebody want to clarify that for me?
I can, Your Honor.
What did he supposedly do wrong, Mr. Baca?
Your Honor, in this case, according to an amended information, he's charged with just one count today, and that is under KSA 32-1015 subsection 3, which is essentially a Kansas wildlife and parks violation. What the information alleges is that on November 17th in 2023, at a location here in Butler County, Kansas.
Okay, I can read the charging document, but it doesn't tell me what he did.
Your Honor,
that's all I'm interested in.
Looking that up, bouncing through the regulations, it essentially comes to he was driving an off-road vehicle in a state and wildlife park location and wasn't on the roads as required to the regulations.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. What plea is being entered?
No contest, Your Honor.
Very well. All right, the court will address the defendant personally. I've got some questions for you. It's court's understanding that you're entering a no contest plea at this time and accepting conviction for this wildlife and parks violation of essentially driving off of an established roadway. Is that indeed your intention?
Yes, I intend to
Sir?
plead no
Okay.
contest, Your Honor.
All right, and you understand that Class C misdemeanors in Kansas are generally punishable by up to a $500 fine and up to 30 days in the county jail or both?
I understand that, Your Honor.
According to the state's charging document, Mr. Baca, and the statement that you made earlier, the court has an understanding of the nature of the charge. I trust that according to what you've stated in the charging document, this took place on November 17 of 2023, Mr. Baca?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it happened inside the state park at El Dorado?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And do your records show what kind of vehicle that he drove off the roadway?
Your Honor, it does look like the officer on the citation listed it as an ATV. Don't know if he has any more information than that.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Lazardi Rodriguez, at this time, do you enter a no contest plea and accept conviction in Parks misdemeanor violation as discussed here on the record this afternoon?
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is a free and voluntary act on your part?
Yes, in counsel with my attorney. And I want
Very
to
well.
clarify, I didn't have an ATV, it was just my truck.
Okay, fair enough. Court certainly finds that establishes it was a motor vehicle. The court will turn to sentencing at this time. Mr. Baca, what are the state's recommendations now that the court accepts the no contest plea by the defendant and finds him convicted of this offense?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, pursuant to an agreement, state is recommending a $100 fine, recommending 30 days jail suspended, also recommending 6 months non-reporting probation, and pay court costs.
What would the cost amount be associated with the fish and game charge, Mr. Baca? Do you know?
I don't have
Let's
it.
see
I
if I
do know
can-
it's a Class C misdemeanor. So I would guess that, I believe the misdemeanor.
I
court
think-
costs.
Are you asking for
looking
the
to see.
misdemeanor docket fee?
Well, the fish and game,
Okay.
does it have its own set of court costs like traffic does?
I don't remember.
Okay,
I don't believe it does, Your Honor. I think it's just misdemeanor costs.
all right. Court will address defense counsel and ask, do you have any other recommendations regarding an appropriate sentence for your client?
No, Your Honor, we would join that recommendation.
All right, I'll ask the defendant personally. Do you have any statements that you wish to make in mitigation of punishment here?
I don't believe so.
All right. The court is of the opinion that the defendant likely has learned his lesson at this point. He's not likely to repeat the behavior that's involved here. Court will assess a $100 fine. The court will assess the appropriate misdemeanor fish and game fee, docket fee for this particular offense. Court will also impose 30 days in the Butler County Jail, suspend actual execution of that sentence, and place this defendant on 6 months non-reporting probation, which basically means that the defendant needs to do two things to get this case taken care of. Pay the case off and also stay out of trouble for 6 months.
Understood.
All right. Now, as far as payment is concerned, what is being proposed here?
And Judge, I just found the docket fee. It is 108.
Thank you. So the total is $208.
I defer to my client, but I believe 30 days would be enough time to pay, Your Honor.
Yes, I agree.
Very well. Court will adopt that proposal.
Thank you.
And establish that the defendant has 30 days from today's date to fully pay off the case. The implication if you don't, is that it's likely to be sent by the clerk's office to a collection agency. Additional fees will be added if that happens. So I think it's in your best interest, Mr. Lazardi Rodriguez, to go ahead and get that paid off within that 30-day period. Further, theoretically, the county attorney's office could take action on your sentence otherwise. So just 30 days is plenty of time. Just get that amount taken care of, okay?
Yes, sir. No problem.
All right. Do either the prosecuting or defense attorney have anything else that they need to address the court about regarding this case at this time?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense. Thank you.
All right. I thank defense counsel for her patience in getting to her and her client's case today. If there's nothing further, that matter will be in recess and I can release the defendant and his attorney from the meeting at this time.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all she wrote for tonight, kids. I thought a little bit with the guy driving his truck out in the, for me, around here, we know you're not supposed to drive. You could drive in just about anybody's yard you want to, but you stay out of the state park, for God's sake. At least you stay on the trails. You stay on the paved trails. You don't go off-road in the state parks. That's just a no-no. Just asking for trouble from the game warden or anybody else. Usually, if you're seen doing something like that, they just automatically presume that you're drunk or getting drunk or making just very bad life decisions. And for the most part, they're probably pretty right about it. And talking about some other people who made some pretty bad life decisions. Those first two cases we watched, oh my gosh. I love watching Judge Mogan, but I'm with you guys. The prosecutor sometimes gets on my nerves, but hey, guy's got a job he's got to do, and he does his job the best way he knows to do it. And Judge Mogan serves the bench with prestige and power, and I don't know, she's just got a presence that cannot be worded. I can't word anymore. I am your lone wolf Usul. I'm your humble host for this here program, these here videos on this channel, and this here collection of court craziness. I can't words again. I'm trying to words. Make sure you like content and subscribe for more content just like this amazing, excellent, pre-planned outro. And, you know, we'll be back again tomorrow, same wolf time, same wolf channel. That's 8 p.m. Central for those of you who don't know, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'll just say thank you. I am your humble lone wolf Usul. I am actually here. But, you know, the stream boss, he keeps me behind the wolf. It's the rule. Just how it has to be. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I am your humble lone wolf Usul. And I am out. Oh, by the way, I've got videos coming out all week long. They're dropping all day, every day. Keep an eye out. It's just stuff from the cutting room floor that we couldn't get to in these daily live streams. And a lot more happened today that I couldn't get to. But I assure you, we will get to it. Most especially that Thurston PPO. And remember, inside every cynical person, there's just a disappointed idealist. Good night.